Today I'm going to be ranking every single Lobber plant and Plants vs. Zombies 2. Within Plants vs. Zombies 2, there's a total of 16 different Lobber plants. Today I'm going to be ranking each one from worst to best. So yeah, starting off at 16, we have Cabbage Pole. Now, the reason why Cabbage Pole is the worst Lobber plant in my opinion is just really weak. It deals very similar damage to the pea shooter, and really the only thing that's good at is that it's able to shoot over graves to attack the zombies. But besides that, after the first few Ancient Egypt levels, there's really no reason to use this plant, you just get better plants within the first half of Ancient Egypt. So yeah, honestly, after the first half of Ancient Egypt, you'll most likely actually never use this plant again, as it's just really weak and deals very low damage and just doesn't do that much. Which is why it's ranked the lowest Lobber plant on this entire list. Now next up at 15, we have Pepper Pole. Now, the reason why Pepper Pole is so low on this list is it could be a good plant, but it just deals really low damage and also has really high sun cost and also really high recharge time. For example, Cabbage Pole costs 100 sun and deals 40 damage, while Pepper Pole costs 200 sun and only deals 50 damage. It also just has a really slow recharge time, and the only thing that's really good at is I could unfreeze plants in frostbite caves. But the ability to unfreeze plants is shared by multiple plants, so obviously you probably won't use Pepper Pole for that reason. The only other slightly good thing about it is that it deals really low splash damage. But besides that, there's just not much good things about Pepper Pole, which is why it's really low on the list. Now at 14, we have Spores Shom. The main problem with Spores Shom is that once again, it just doesn't really deal that much damage, but its main gimmick is spawning more Spores Shoms. When a Spores Shom kills a zombie, it spawns another Spores Shom if the tile space where the zombie was killed is empty. Meaning that if there's something like a gravestone or another plant where the zombie is killed, it just won't spawn. Even when these Spores Shoms do successfully spawn, they just are really useless most of the time, they just spawn in really bad areas. Since most of the time you kill zombies at the beginning of the lawn, most of the time they'll just spawn there and instantly get eaten. So yeah, honestly, the multiplying feature just isn't really that good, and once again, it just deals really low damage, which is why it's this low on the list. Now next up we have Blooming Heart. Now the main gimmick of this plant is that when it hits a zombie once and it hits it a second time, it'll deal slightly more damage every time it hits a zombie. Which might sound really good, but overall it's just really weak, as the actual damage that you gain is super low. So yeah, unless if you hit a zombie tons of times, then you just won't really notice a difference at all, and overall it's just really not that useful. And the normal damage of this plant is also just really weak. So yeah, overall there's a lot better Lobber plants out there that you would rather use than Blooming Heart. Now at number 12 we have Kernel Pole. Now, Kernel Pole is a plant that deals alright damage, and it has a 25% chance of hitting a zombie with butter. And what this butter does is that it temporarily freezes the zombie, making it easier to hit. And the butter could actually be really useful, as it freezes the zombie for up to 8 seconds, and it also deals some extra damage. So yeah, honestly, the butter gimmick on the Kernel Pole is actually just really good, but for the rest of the Kernel Pole, it's overall pretty weak for the normal kernels. So yeah, overall, the main reason why it's this low on the list is that the normal damage of this plant with the normal kernels is pretty low, and it just doesn't really deal that much damage unless if it shoots butter. Now at 11 we have Blastberry Vine. Now since this plant is a vine plant, you could actually place it on top of other plants, which is pretty useful for dealing a bit of extra damage, and it also deals some extra splash damage from the berries that it shoots. But just like the Pepper Pole splash damage, it just doesn't really do that much, and it's overall just a really weak amount of splash damage that you just won't really notice. And it's probably the weakest out of all the vine plants, as the majority of the vine plants are actually pretty good besides this one. So yeah, overall there's just not much of a reason to use this plant when there's overall just a lot better vine plants, and honestly there's just not much of a point of unlocking this one. Now at number 10 we have Boomberry. Now, this plant actually has a pretty interesting feature where it actually targets the zombies at the back of the lawn instead of the ones at the front of the lawn. Which could sometimes be useful in certain worlds, but most of the time you don't really want to attack the back of the lawn, and you want to attack the zombies that are closest to the plant itself, as if the plant can't defend itself, it will get eaten pretty easily. Which means if you want the Boomberries to live, you'll have to put a plant in front of it which could attack for it, as it can't really defend itself. And the only other gimmick about this plant is that it deals a slight amount of splash damage, which is slightly more than the last two plants that we looked at that have splash damage, making it slightly more powerful. Now at number 9 we have Sapling. Now, the only thing that this plant does is that it flings sap at the zombies, slowing them down by 50%. Which actually makes it a pretty useful stalling plant, so it can actually stall zombies for a good amount of time. And while it also only costs 50 sun, which actually makes it pretty good, and but doesn't really deal any damage, unlike other stalling plants. As well, if this plant actually dealt damage, it would actually be a lot better. But yeah, overall, for a stalling plant, it's really not that bad, and mattering on how you could use it, it's actually pretty useful. Now, at number 8, we have AKE. Now, the main gimmick of this plant is that when it shoots seeds at a zombie, it actually bounces on top of the zombie's heads onto another zombie for up to 4 times. Which actually makes it pretty useful, especially when you get a multiple of these in the same row, as they can actually deal a really good amount of damage. And while it also deals a decent amount of damage for every time it hits a zombie, so yeah, overall it's a pretty useful plant, as it's definitely not the best lobber plant out there, but it's also not that bad. Now at number 7 we have Sling Pee. Now what this plant does is that it just shoots peas into the air, hitting the nearest zombie. And while this plant actually deals a really good amount of damage, especially when you put multiple of them in the same row, as they end up dealing a pretty good amount of damage. But for whatever reason, it seems that nobody uses this plant for whatever reason, so I just see no one using it. As well, this plant could actually be pretty effective with dealing with big herds of zombies, so yeah, overall, I don't really know why this plant isn't used as often as well, but it's just really not that bad. Now at number 6, we have Turkey Pole. Now, this plant is actually pretty unique, as well, it actually launches turkeys at the zombies. And while these turkeys that the turkey pole shoots are very similar to the zombie turkeys, except these turkeys actually fight on your side instead of against you. And while when the turkey is attacking the zombie, it could actually deal a pretty good amount of damage, and it will also stall the zombies. Which actually makes it really useful against big herds of zombies, so we can actually stall them for a pretty good amount of time, while the other plants that you've placed down could actually attack them, which actually makes it a really good stalling plant. And it also deals a decent amount of damage. It could also shoot a lot of turkeys if you have multiple of them in the same row. So yeah, overall, this is a pretty good plant. Now at number 5, we have Melon Pole. Now this plant actually deals a really good amount of splash damage. So when it hits a zombie, it actually deals splash damage in a 3x3 radius. Meaning that in especially big herds of zombies, this plant could actually be really useful, as not only will it deal a ton of damage to the zombie that it hits, it'll also deal a ton of damage to all the zombies around it. Which just makes it really useful for dealing with big herds of zombies, especially if you place tons of these melon poles down. And it's just really good with dealing with very powerful zombies like gargantuars. Now at number 4 we have Apple Mortar. Now the Apple Mortar actually attacks in 3 different lanes, which already just makes it a bit more useful than the other lobber plants, and it also temporarily stuns them. And well, if you place down a ton of apple mortars, it actually just makes the plant more and more useful, as if you place down tons of apple mortars, it actually makes it basically impossible for the zombies to move. As since it stuns the zombies for a short amount of time, it'll make it so that the zombies move extremely slow, making them really easy to kill. So yeah, overall, especially because it deals a good amount of damage, this is overall just a really good stalling plant, and overall deals a nice amount of damage. Now at number 3, we have Sticky Bomb Rice. Now, Sticky Bomb Rice is overall just a really useful plant, as it lobs rice at the zombies that explode when it hits them, which just makes it really good for dealing splash damage, as it actually deals a ton of splash damage, making it very good for big herds of zombies. And while it's also pretty good at stalling the zombies, as the rice actually makes them really slow, so yeah, overall, this is just a really good plant. And well, just like the Apple Mortar, this plant attacks in 3 different lanes, which just makes it even more useful. So yeah, overall, this is a great plant. As not only does it shoot in 3 different lanes, it also deals an insane amount of splash damage. So yeah, overall, it could kill huge herds of zombies very quickly. Now at number 2, we have Dust Lobber. Now, Dust Lobber is obviously the best shadow plant out there, and it deals an insane amount of splash damage. And while this plant only costs 150 sun, which makes it already even more overpowered, as since it deals so much damage, you can place so many of these really quickly. So yeah, overall, since this plant just attacks zombies extremely quickly and also deals a ton of splash damage, this just makes it one of the best lobbers in the entire game. Now at number 1, we have Winter Melon. Now this plant basically does the exact same thing as the Melon Pole, except it chills the zombies. And while it actually chills the zombies for a very long amount of time, making it really easy to group up tons of zombies to make the splash damage even more effective. Since you slow down the zombies, they group up very quickly and overall just deal an insane amount of splash damage and basically kills tons of zombies at once. And while this plan is definitely one of the best in the entire game for dealing with big herds of zombies, as we could just chill all of them and then kill them basically instantly. So yeah, overall, this is the best Lobber plan in the entire game, and the only downside to it is the extremely high sun cost. But honestly, if the sun cost was any lower, this plan would be way too overpowered, as you'll be able to place too many of them, which just makes it too overpowered. So yeah, overall, this is definitely the best Lobber plan in the entire game, as it's just really overpowered. So yeah, that was every single Lobber plant ranked. Comment down below if you agree with this list, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, please like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great day.